Drake is the Malcolm X of white people. And academics, make sure you post Gordo's first week sales, since Drake thought he did a thing with making him drop on the same day as me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the engineer, the producer for the most popular hip hop track of 2024. And why is he sending this tweet out, you might ask? Well, in the aftermath of the Drake and Kendrick beef, I think everybody in LA thought that it was actually a W for them as well. When in all actuality, the engineer, the producer, the mastermind behind the most popular track put out his own album. And you would think that the person that gave you the W as far as the biggest hip hop battle of all time would get at least some type of post, mention, video with you promoting his new album, right? Because if you look right here, Analytic Dreams video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio, DJ Mustard's Faith of a Mustard Seed album sold 18,000 units first week. And of course, DJ Mustard, being the gracious God that he is and the humble God that he is, said he was beyond grateful. Now, of course, that came way after all the other tweets of calling Drake the Malcolm X of white people, calling the Drake bots a part of the nation of Drizlam, which, of course, is interesting when you look at it from a totality standpoint of you making the beat for the most popular hip hop track of 2024. But when you put out your own album, that specific artist doesn't give any type of attention or doesn't try to send any type of attention towards your album. Because in the aftermath of a Drake and Kendrick beef, you would think somebody of Kendrick's stature would probably boost the sales of the engineer behind his biggest track of 2024. So one of the biggest things I wanted to touch on with this whole debacle when it comes to the aftermath of the Drake and Kendrick beef is the after effects when it comes to clout, because a lot of people think that it was going to translate into actual album sales for themselves. But as you can see right here, it did not. Now, I like DJ Mustard, but somebody has to point out that Kendrick currently is putting up the biggest numbers in 2024 when it comes to specifically tracks and just content released in 2024. Because as a totality, I mean, everybody knows that Drake is still the GOAT. And if you don't know, objectively speaking, Drake is still number one as the top 10 most streamed rappers of July. It's still Drake, which is when the Not Like music video came out, the pop-out show happened, everybody on stage crip walking, promoting themselves seemingly thinking it was going to raise their own stature. But in all that, at the end of the day, only two winners of this beef is the ones attached to the actual content produced in the hip hop track. So, well, in the hip hop beef. So DJ Mustard making so much revenue from the Not Like Us track, some would say that is all you need and all the attention you need as far as from your musical releases in 2024. But I beg to differ, because if I was a rapper and a engineer, a beat maker made such a phenomenal beat to the point where I was able to win the biggest hip hop beef of all time, if he put out a new album seemingly capitalizing off of the opportunity that he just created for himself, you would think the person attached to that, as a rapper myself, I would come, like in a hypothetical situation, as a rapper, I would come out to promote it. I would come out to give new tracks, new verses on his album, and basically shine a light just to show my appreciation for his contribution to me winning the overall battle. But of course that didn't happen. So anyways, with Kendrick and him leaving his friends out to dry, out to basically deal with the ramifications of even showing themselves on the Pop Out show, SiR and ScHoolboy Q recently had their Canada shows canceled. And it wasn't canceled in a way of, oh, we're going to give you like a week's worth of notice. Basically, in ScHoolboy Q's situation, they was on the plane when they was told and made aware of the situation that they could not perform in Canada. Why? Only time will tell why that happened. I wonder if them being on stage while the pedophile anthem was blasting through the speakers, I wonder if that had anything to do with it. But, that's just me, right? Because in putting this in perspective, I mean, facing backlash when you haven't even received the proper revenue or income from the Not Like Us, because who gets that? I mean, Kendrick and anybody a part of that track. So when you think he's doing you a solid of having you come out on the Pop Out show and showcase your talent, and then it comes to you capitalizing off of that opportunity, and then the ultimate realization of this is not, in retrospect, this is not coming back to me as far as boosting my career, you kind of wonder to yourself, why did I show up on that stage in the first place? The cancellation of the shows in Canada is not the only thing that's the aftermath of this beef, because of course they also had a lot of different responses that they sent out as far as letting people know, as SiR came out and said, which is part of TDE, if you didn't know, which is basically the label that Kendrick was the flagship, the mascot for, but the actual label is ran by President Punch and President Punch. And so with TDE Punch and his respective artists also thinking they was going to capitalize off of it, they quickly realized the ramification and the effects of even supporting Kendrick's victory lap in this hip hop beef. So SiR came out and said, for those wondering, we sold that show out, but it was canceled by the venue. Not sure why. My apologies again to those who came out to see me. And of course, ScHoolboy Q, who also had his show canceled, capitalized off of this by saying a joke, basically saying, ha ha ha, take your expletive home, boy. Sing on the bus, it's over with. And then of course, he's making jokes of the situation when they actually are pretty upset over this, because if you don't know, Canada is a pretty significant market to promote yourself in, especially when it comes to performance wise, because for artists, that's how you make most of your money back on your front that you get from a major label is touring. Most of the money is made from touring. It's really not from putting out music. If you didn't know that, well, now you know, as SiR responded to that tweet from ScHoolboy Q clowning the announcement. And he said, he said, laugh a face emoji. They don't like us, play off of Not Like Us. But those are some of the things from the aftermath of this Drake and Kendrick beef. I think it's going to come to a head to when Kendrick inevitably puts out his album, sells the most in his first week and for the rest of the year for whenever he puts out his album. And the people on TDE, because if you don't know, Kendrick's not a part of TDE anymore. He made his own label, PG Lane, which he also has Baby Keem on. So that's his focus. So whenever he comes out, sells a lot with his respective album, which is rumored to be heavy LA infused beats and trap elements, as it's going to be more of a, not a party album, but it's just going to be more LA centric as far as the album. Is he going to have the people from the Pop Out show on his album? That is what I am curious on, because it seems like he is only in this for himself, when in all actuality, the whole promotion of Not Like Us was bringing LA together. But we haven't seen Kendrick since. It's like the hood avatar from RDC World. When the world needed him most, he vanished. When ScHoolboy Q was putting out his new album, trying to capitalize off of helping Kendrick in the beef, Kendrick didn't post his album once, didn't mention it, didn't shine a light on it, didn't even give him a verse. ScHoolboy Q, SiR's out here getting their respective shows in Canada canceled. And where is Kendrick to be found? Kendrick is basically thumbing through the multiple millions that he made off of releasing one of the biggest hip hop diss track of all time. So I think when you're quantifying the aftermath of Drake and Kendrick, you realize that there's only two winners. There's Drake, because of course he's always going to be number one. I mean, in the month of everybody thinking Drake fell off, they're still streaming his music. As you can see right here, he's still the most streamed rapper of 2024, but specifically I had July up because I think that was the time where everybody was like, oh, Kendrick's just completely dominating Drake, because they was only posting the sales of Not Like Us. Because if you don't know, Kendrick currently has better numbers than Drake when it comes to 2024 release content. So Not Like Us is the third most played track in the world, 13 weeks on the charts. Like That, been on the charts for about 19 weeks. Technically is a Metro Boomin track in Future, but Kendrick Lamar is a feature, and that probably has something to do with it as far as the longevity on the charts. It's the 18th most played track in the world, been on the charts for about 19 weeks. And then you have Euphoria, which is also a playoff of the biggest hip hop beef of all time, and that is the 79th most played track in the world currently, and been on the charts for about 14 weeks. Now Drake, if you wanted to compare it, has a whopping one track in the top 100 on Billboard with Sexy Red, You My Everything, that's been on the charts for about 10 weeks and is the 80th most played track in the world. Now you're probably asking yourself, how could Drake have these numbers in Spotify in July, being top tier, number one when it comes to most streams, but he only has one track charting in the top 100? That is when the discography comes into play. People would rather listen to Drake than any other rapper. So if you're streaming Drake's old music more than somebody's newer music, then you're still going to be number one on these respective charts when it comes to overall streams, especially in the month of July. So that is why I'm saying the whole Drake's over, Kendrick demolished him is, objectively speaking, false. Drake is still number one. It's going to be number one for a while. And there's a reason why Kendrick, The Weeknd, Metro, A$AP Rocky, Pharrell Williams, who, if you don't know, took a shot at Drake on the Despicable Me soundtrack. I mean, talk about the Avengers trying to team up to take out the man on top. If people can't see what's actually happening in the downfall of Drake, I forget how Kanye put it, but he was like, we was all excited for I forget what he said. Kanye said the most egregious sentiments possible. He was like, yeah, we was all gathering around excited for the downfall of Drake. I was like, what world is this man living in? And for me, I always state objective facts, even though I'm a huge Drake fan, so I never hide that fact. I mean, I may be a little biased when it comes to the quality level of the TDE camp, but I've always said that Kendrick is the best rapper of the modern generation. So whenever this battle happened, obviously I was rooting for Drake, but he ended up getting completely annihilated. I mean, just straight up verbally mutilated when it came to the back and forth with Kendrick. But in the aftermath of everything, with people who are showing up and supporting the track, being in the music videos, getting the shows canceled in Toronto, and people linking it to the Drake and Kendrick beef, you come to wonder why they even supported Kendrick in the first place. Because if he's going to benefit from all the engagement to the Not Like Us track and the Euphoria track, and then you're out here thinking you're promoting yourself only to capitalize off of it and bringing it full circle, DJ Mustard trying to capitalize off of it being the main producer of the beat of the best hip-hop beef, well, statistically wise, the most popular hip-hop beef track of all time. You would think he would sell more than this than 18,000 first week, which is definitely great if you're an independent artist. But as far as an engineer who had Travis Scott, I mean, if you go to the album, it's not like DJ Mustard didn't have the names on there. Like, he had everybody in the mom popping out for his latest album. He had Kirk Franklin popping up. He had ScHoolboy Q, Vince Staples, shout out to LA. He had Quavo on it, Travis Scott, Ty Dolla $ign, Blast, A Boogie, Roddy Ricch, Ty Dolla $ign again, Future, Charlie Wilson, for crying out loud, LMA, Kodak Black, Young Thug, Lil Durk, and guess who was missing from that star-studded list of features? The man that he gave his most impactful beat for his career. The man who gave you your beat to win the hip-hop beef battle. And you couldn't even show up for a verse. You couldn't even post nothing on your IG story, your post, your Twitter story, your post. And I know a lot of people be like, oh, Kendrick stays off the internet. Well, my brother, you was not staying off the internet when you was promoting Not Like Us. And the least you could do is to show some sort of gratitude for the person who was at least halfway responsible for your biggest track of all time. So that is why that's why I wanted to highlight the aftermath of the beef, because I think a lot of people get it confused on how it's affecting and uniting LA. It's really only beneficial for the people attached to the beef tracks. And guess who's majority-wise connected to the beef tracks? Kendrick. So anyways, in the aftermath of Drake and Kendrick, to round this off, to end this off, Drake released 100 gigabytes worth of content, which of course was there was an attempt by UMG, which is Universal Music Group, the biggest label in the music industry. They tried to take certain copyright actions and copyright striking certain content on Drake's website for the simple fact that he released new songs with Lotto, 21 Savage. I mean, he released another song that was more of I think it was like a reggaeton or a house vibe. But basically, he released all type of new content, behind the scenes footage of like Over My Dead Body, behind the scenes footage of his show, just a whole bunch of free content released. And it was a great marketing strategy for getting the spotlight off of the whole Drake's falling off, right? It's just showing people why in the world, why would y'all think I'm falling off while I'm still on top? And let me just show you some of the work that went into some of the classic material that you've been playing since you've been in like junior high. So yeah, Universal Music Group did not like that at all. And they tried to copyright strike it, but I think it's still up. But there was even a post, I think I have it up here. Yeah, it's right here from Elliot Wilson. Shout out to Elliot Wilson. But yeah, it was even a post as you can see right here, Analytic Dreams video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. But basically, as you can see from the IG account that basically released all the Drake content, we don't know who released it, right? Like who would have released all this content specifically focused on Drake? I mean, I don't think we need Daphne to figure this one out. But so with Drake using this random IG account to put out all this content, UMG was like, you know what, we're going to strike some of it. So on August 6th at 9:42 a.m., UMG copyright strikes some of the content on this. And basically, as you can see right here, it says the rights holder is Universal Music Group. And that's why your content has been restricted. Access to your content has been restricted based on a report from a third party. I wonder who the third party was. That the content violates their music rights. Now, obviously, the music's still going to be up because Universal don't want to get on Drake's bad side. Because if you're trying to copyright strike somebody who's been a pivotal player in the rise of your music label success, like, of course, Universal Music Group could technically do without Drake. I mean, they have Taylor Swift, Post Malone, Ed Sheeran. I mean, they have the 1% of the 1% all signed to Universal Music Group, which is why they act the way they do when it comes to certain negotiation tactics towards a TikTok, towards a Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Because if they don't get a certain bag, they could just always say, hey, I mean, if you don't want to pay us this much, no problem. We can just take away our artists. And by the way, if you're not familiar, I mean, we have Taylor Swift, Drake, Post Malone, and we'll just take those off and, we just go our separate way. And guess what? Everybody and the mom is like, no, let's get this deal done, which is why Universal Music Group will forever be number one in inevitably and unequivocally the big bad of the music industry. So with Drake getting his own stuff taken down, copyright stricken, you realize that the UMG is still the boss. Lucian Grange is still the boss when it comes to Drake's content. You can't just release millions of free content and I think we're going to step in. So that's the aftermath of this. I think the actions it's very interesting from UMG, because if you really think about it, Drake and UMG seemingly have a great relationship. So I don't think this is going to be a big deal, but it is interesting to see Drake's tactics when releasing content in spite of being under contract by UMG. It is very interesting tactics that he's going through to put out music for free to the people. It's admirable, but at the same time, from UMG's perspective, it's straight up breaking the contract. And there's really not too much you can say, because once again, Drake's a major player in UMG's negotiation talks. So they're probably gonna get him a light tap on the wrist and tell him to stop leaking music through cancellation and stop leaking music through random IG accounts, and actually uphold your end of the contract and put out music officially through DSPs, because that's how Universal makes their return on investment. And I know Yachty came out, he was like, "Oh, I'm the one who gave the track to cancellation." All right, my brother, way to take the bullet for Drake. But we all know who has the last say when it comes to, oh, I'm thinking about sending an unreleased track to cancellation. What do you think about it, Drake? Like, imagine if Drake said no. Guess what? The cancellation leak is never happening. So at the end of the day, UMG is just going to have to find a certain way to get Drake to officially put out music so they can get their return on investment. But with Drake still having dominance over the chart sales and just engagement from, just being the top most listened to rapper in 2024 still, with none of his current music on the charts, it's a testament to why UMG is so hesitant to just go full out and just take down the whole IG account. Because if you look up this IG account, all the content is still up there, and it's going to take content creators a while to see what they want to do with that content, because it's free content. Literally, somebody can make their own documentary. I don't know if y'all ever heard of the YouTube channel called What's the Dirt, but if one of those type of content creators puts the effort in and the time in to put together a whole Drake documentary using those free content releases from Drake through this Instagram account, best believe me, UMG will get involved, because that would be taking food and money off the table that they otherwise would have had. So yeah, I don't want to drag this on too long. I could always talk about the Drake and Kendrick beef. People enjoy when I do, so I always try to bring some new information that you might have not heard. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed me breaking down some of the aftermath tidbits that you may have otherwise not known. So with that being said, I think I covered everything. So, and then Scheme was the last thing. Yeah, Scheme had a show in Canada, so he actually was able to get to Toronto and perform. If you don't know, that was the producer for the late great XXX Tentacion, which has interesting ties when it comes to him and the Drake beef. So with Scheme, of course, he's gonna play the Not Like Us in Toronto and video it, and then basically that's what this is right here. Is him showcasing how he's playing Not Like Us in Toronto, and you can see they kind of turning up to it. He didn't get the Rick Ross treatment whenever he tried to play Not Like Us in Toronto, but basically, as you can see, they vibing to it. He videoed it, he put it out, and the next time he tries to come to Canada, it may be a little hard to get on stage. But that's besides the point. So anyways, at the end of the day, the Drake and Kendrick beef aftermath is forever ongoing, and I think it's going to come to a head when they realize how much Kendrick has benefited from this, off of saying that he's uniting and promoting the LA artists, and they're going to hold some sort of resentment for even showing up on that stage, because guess what? As you can see right here, with the producer of Not Like Us selling 18,000 units first week, it's not really translating into more album sales for the respective artists who thought Kendrick was promoting them. So with that being said, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about this overall aftermath of just the Drake and Kendrick beef? What do you think about ScHoolboy Q and SiR getting their concerts canceled in Toronto? What do you think about Mustard, the beat maker for Not Like Us, selling as little as he did? along with Kendrick not even promoting the album or his album once or giving him a feature, nothing. What do you think about that? And what do you think is the biggest takeaway from the aftermath of Drake versus Kendrick?